Authorship, the state or fact of being the writer of a book, article, document, or the creator of a work of art. The meaning of being an author, according to Paisley Livingston, is to create something with an intended function of which is expression or communication. So what do we mean when we talk about authorship in film? Film, in comparison to other art forms, is relatively young. In fact, the first ever movie, the Roundery Garden Scene, was created in 1888 and only lasted 2.11 seconds. Unlike other art forms, film has always been a collaborative process. Yet, it wasn't until the early 1950s that authorship within film was first addressed by the French film critic and theorist André Bazin in his journal Cahiers du Cinéma. Within this, André identifies that the French New Wave directors of the time were dominating their films with such brilliance and technique that it overshadowed their subject matter. Films to follow, such as Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless and its use of the jump cut, or Alain Resnais's Hiroshima Mon Amour and its combination of newsreel footage with staged reenactments to tell the story. Both are perfect examples of this theory in practice. André theorized that these directors, as a result of their dominant contribution, could be perceived as the authors of the films. This is a concept that we are familiar with today. We are all, consciously or not, compliant with the director-as-star ethos that has dominated film in the last 70 years. This idea that the director's role provides the closest thing to a grasp of the totality of the shooting and assembly phases. However, this wasn't André's intention. He had theorized what is known as auteur theory. So how does a director become an auteur? At its most basic, the director's role is to shape everything into a cohesive film. This involves making creative decisions in terms of the project's artistic and dramatic aspects, as well as having a clear vision of the script. Whilst they undoubtedly have a creative input into the film, they are a part of a much larger mechanical process of script to film. An auteur, on the other hand, is a director that steps out of this mechanical process, having a much greater creative impact on the final film. In order to be recognised as an auteur, a director must have a clear and identifiable style across the totality of their work. The result of this is that their films will always carry a set of themes and ideas that reflect their personal beliefs. An example of a director who is widely considered an auteur by today's standards is Quentin Tarantino. He, unlike many directors, massively involves himself in all aspects of his film's productions, including the writing of the script. And this shows, as Tarantino movies all contain a number of his signatures, such as the trunk shot, a strange obsession with feet or lips, and the theme of violence. What this means is that people know what to expect from his films. They know the quality of his work, but also the ideas and themes that will be present. The term metteur en scène, ironically just translating to director, refers to a director or in fact filmmaker that, despite being highly competent, lacks the consistency and clarity across their work to have a clear signature. The point that I'm attempting to make is that André Bazin is actually identifying that an auteur can be recognised as the author of a film because of their creative dominance, whereas a metteur en scène doesn't warrant authorship status of a film because they're simply a part of the process rather than a defining factor. Yet, can only directors be considered auteurs? You could quite easily argue that an actor can possess the same ability to demonstrate a clear style and signature in their work. Adam Sandler's films, for example, will always hold comedic value. They aim to teach some kind of life lesson. They feature the same cast, and all of his films feature the same wardrobe choices, his own clothes. Not only this, but he writes his films too, a factor that almost definitely deserves authorship status.
I wanna kiss you all over and over and again.
Using this example, you can begin to see that auteur theory can be applied not only to the role of a director, but the roles of any filmmaker, provided they meet the criteria. The reality of authorship in film is that the author, intentionally or not, becomes who the film is recognised for. Politically speaking, the issue of this is that authorship can be influenced by an individual's success, an issue created by the idea of authorship to begin with, by taking a collaborative piece of work and trying to associate it with one name. An article in the Journal of Aesthetics and Art Criticism observed that, despite all sorts of arguments reducing authors to abstract entities, we have not been able in our critical and historical discourses to shrug off talking about films as if they are the products of real individuals. It would seem that films cannot be categorized in the same way as a physical text. There are simply too many who contribute to associate a film to just one name, regardless of who that may be. However, it would be near impossible to shrug off the way that we naturally associate films with their stars. In reality, authorship is not just a theory, but a characteristic of the film industry's elitist hierarchy, a concept that is likely to stay.